Hey guys, welcome to April. The March image can be previewed over here on this side of the screen. If you want to see the full image, you can check out my Patreon page, which I will link below on this side of the screen. Uh, a lot has happened fairly recently. People are starting to hire again, finally, or at least I'm getting job interviews again, which is nice. So hopefully I'll have some real income to do things with. Patreon has been nice, and I appreciate the support, but it's not quite enough to pay the bills. I can get a cup of coffee and get my own food every now and then, but things are still a little tight. If you do feel like donating, I'm not looking for pity donations or anything, but if you appreciate my art and like my art streams and stuff like that, you can donate on my Patreon page, and I've recently restructured it so that it is more clear what the purpose of the page is for, and all that kind of stuff. So, and the direction I'm taking things, right? When I initially started my Patreon and my YouTube channel, I had all these grand ideas because I didn't really understand how it worked in real life, right? And so, back in January, I did my video where I talked about the goals for the channel for the year, right? Trying to set more reasonable and attainable goals, trying to use my time well, all these kind of things that I'm learning because I'm 30, and apparently that's when you learn how to become a functioning adult in society for some people. Anyway, got my portfolio in front of a real game studio, which is neat. Had to sign an NDA and everything, which means I can't tell you too much about it. Got some interesting feedback, though, about sort of specializing and theming my portfolio towards a specific job or whatever I'm looking at, and that coming out of school, all of my portfolio stuff is basically or most of it is basically stuff that I did for an assignment, right? I was given a task and I completed the task. And so since graduating, it's kind of the first time where I've had the freedom to do what I want to do. And then I also need to start planning it out, for it to become a career, right? And my portfolio is still kind of all over the place, focusing in and picking a direction to take it, just like I am trying to focus in and taking my YouTube and life in a specific direction, right? Was good feedback to hear from a professional artist working at a game studio. That was not for an interview. Pretty sure I can tell you that. But again, good feedback to get. I don't think there's a whole lot new in my life right now. A bunch of new movies coming out soon that I don't have really the time or money for all of them, because who does? You know, there's just too many movies coming out. I mean, like, we already have Shazam, and there was Us, and I did see Captain Marvel, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And then Hellboy is coming out like this weekend or something. And oh goodness, Endgame is like right around the corner. But let's talk about Captain Marvel, right? Speaking of movies, if you haven't seen it already, it's been out for a little while, so I guess wait for it to come out on Netflix or Blu-ray or something. Redbox it. I don't know what people do. Uh, but yeah, Captain Marvel was a fun movie. Captain Marvel was not a fun character, right? And I want to make it perfectly clear where I stand on this, right? I have no problem with Brie Larson as a person or any public statements she's made. I don't care. She's entitled to her opinion, whatever. She did a fine job as an actress, right? She played the role. She played the role well. She delivered all her lines well. It's fine, right? I don't care that Captain Marvel is a female, because there are already some awesome female characters in Marvel and DC. I thought Wonder Woman was fantastic as a character, and the movie was fun too. You have Okoye from Black Panther is just, oh my gosh, she's so cool, and she's got like the costume design is amazing, and how many people look good bald, and then the spear thing, and she's just like this badass, and but I digress. Jessica Jones, season 1 at least. I haven't really gotten into any of the other shows, but season 1 of Jessica Jones was amazing and basically perfect. And I think the reason I don't like Captain Marvel as a character has nothing to do with her being a woman, like I said, and nothing to do with Brie Larson as an actress. It's everything to do with the conflicts and challenges set before her. And I'm going to try and keep this spoiler free, but basically, she's got kind of a Superman problem, right? Where you have this character with near limitless power, and you need to have something that challenges her, something that pushes her, right? Look again at Jessica Jones season 1. She has super strength. She can punch her way out of basically anything, and she can also bone Luke Cage, which, that happened. But the Purple Man was an amazing villain because she couldn't punch her way through the Purple Man. It was a battle of wills. It was she had to work through a lot of emotional and psychological distress just to be able to stand in the same room with him. And he really pushed her, right? Lex Luthor is a great foil to Superman, not because of his kryptonite powered battle suit, but because he is a genius who can get away with things because there's no legal grounds for Superman to do anything about them, right? Superman holds himself to a standard, right? And so he is confined by his own moral code, and Lex Luthor knows that and can manipulate not only the system at large because he is a psychopath and a genius, but manipulate Superman because Lex knows that he will never cross that line, or well, almost never cross that line, right? Which is why people have found it so compelling when you have those Superman stories where he does cross that line, because Superman doesn't, and those what if stories are interesting to explore, right? I don't want Superman becoming Injustice Superman in every story, but it's good to have the Injustice version of Superman because it's an interesting take on the character. And anyway, the Lex Luthor and Superman dynamic works because Lex knows where the line is and how to basically push and see just how far he can push that line, and get away with it, right? Those are the best Lex Luthor stories. The best, Jessica Jones was great because of the Purple Man, who she felt like she couldn't even touch. The limitations on the heroes and how they overcome those limitations are what make the stories good. And Captain Marvel doesn't have real limitations. She has limitations in the movie, kind of, but they are not limits on her power. It's her only real limitation feels like it's because she doesn't know who to punch until she does, and then she punches them and wins. It's not there's no like real moral quandary or anything for her necessarily that feels real. Her character arc and everything feels a little forced, or at least it feels empty. It feels shallow. Like her character development feels super super shallow because she doesn't change or grow as a person. She just changes who she decides to punch, and that's it. It's not. She's not an interesting character. You know, you look at overpowered characters like Mob from Mob Psycho 100, and he's amazing because his he's got all these powers. He's the most powerful psychic ever, but he doesn't want to use them. He doesn't want to use his psychic powers on other people. He wants to help people. He knows that his powers are dangerous. He's got this limitation set on him, right? You look at Deku from, or All Might. Well, All Might and Deku from My Hero Academia, right? They the limitations on One for All on their powers feel like they're forced, but they're necessary, right? It's like, okay, well, you have this superpower that he's got so much super strength that it literally like shatters all the bones in his body when he tries to use it. And so seeing him overcome his limitations and work around it, like that's compelling. All Might has all this power and strength, but he can only use it for a limited amount of time. And this is again, this is like 3 or 4 episodes in, right? This is not huge spoiler territory. But All Might has a limit to how he can use his powers and how long he can use his powers. That's compelling. It may feel a little forced, like, oh, we put an arbitrary timer on All Might's powers just so that we can have tension in our stories, right? But that limit needs to be there because that's where you get room for your villains to play, and that's where you get interesting challenges for the heroes to overcome. And I feel like there's not a challenge Captain Marvel can't overcome by shooting it with her laser beams or punching it. I like all the other characters in the movie, and I like the movie as a whole. She as a character bores me. And like I said earlier, it has nothing to do with Brie Larson or the fact that Captain Marvel is female. Because I mean, if you need a kick-ass female character, Okoye is your girl. Come on, I am looking forward to Endgame, and I hope she gets more screen time because I just she's so cool. She's so cool, and like Scarlet Witch was okay, and Black Widow had probably the best character introduction or my favorite character introduction in the whole MCU so far. But I do hope I get to see more Okoye action. So anyway, I'm gonna end this before it drags on too long. What do you guys think of Captain Marvel and my assessment of the situation without going into too many spoilers? Or, it's the comment section. You can do what you want. You know how YouTube works. You can check out my Patreon down below. I'm not really doing Twitter anymore because I can't keep track of it to save my life. I have trouble checking my emails on a daily basis, so anyway, that's it for me. I will see you guys hopefully in an art stream this week, maybe next week, and until then, goodbye, friends.